Hey, what's up? It's Mr. Estrada here, and in this video, we're going to continue our discussion on overlapping similar right triangles. So this is part two of overlapping similar right triangles, but it's also part of our similar triangles series. So it's like a little mini series inside a series. Anyways, I digress. We will look at question 38 from the January 2015 Geometry Regents. And it says, in the diagram below, right triangle RSU is inscribed in circle O. So we are told off the bat that this is a right triangle. So I'm just going to put a 90-degree box there. And it says, and UT is the altitude drawn to the hypotenuse. So if this is an altitude, then we also know this has to be 90 degrees because altitudes are perpendicular to the base. Just make that straight. So the altitude drawn to hypotenuse RS, the length of RT is 16 more than the length of TS, and TU equals 15. Find the length of TS. Find in simplest radical form the length of RU. So we begin. What it says here is that the length of RT is more than the length of TS. So we can say, if we decide to label TS X, that RT would be X plus 16 because RT is supposed to be 16 more than the length of TS. So TS, we label it X, RT, we label it X plus 16. It also says TU is 15, so I'm going to write TU equals 15. All right, now we can use the approach from our last video, you know, where we take the triangles and we split them up. But I'm actually going to give you a rule. It's called the leg rule. And the leg rule is something we can use here. It says the following: the altitude over the leg is equal to the leg over the altitude. So let's get those numbers back over here. So it says the altitude over the leg is equal to the leg over the altitude. So remember, 15 is your altitude, and X is a leg of the small right triangle here. Not that one, sorry. Not that one either. Let me just, there you go. It's a leg of this one, the one I just moved around. And X plus 16 is the leg of this right triangle here. Let's just put these back to where they were. So now using that rule, I could say 15 over X equals X plus 16 over 15. So to solve for X, I'm going to cross multiply. So we get 15 times 15 here, and X times X plus 16, which we will get X times X plus 16 equals 15 times 15, which simplifies to X squared plus 16X equals 225. Now, since this is a quadratic equation, we got to set it equal to 0. We have to move the 225 to the other side. And from that, we get X squared plus 16X minus 225 equals 0. Right, because we moved the 225 to the other side, this canceled out, and you're just left with 0 there. So our next step is to factor. So So we get x plus 25 times x minus 9. 25 times negative 9 is negative 225, and 25 take away 9 is going to give you 16. Okay, so now we're going to break this up. You know, just following the steps of solving a quadratic here. Set each factor equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 25 here. So we get x equals negative 25. Add 9 here. We get x equals 9. We're going to reject the negative 25 because x cannot be a negative since it's the leg of a triangle. So x equals 9. So if x equals 9, that means TS equals 9. So TS equals 9. Now we got to find RU. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to label RUY just for myself. Now the way to find RU is, this is a right triangle here, and I know that this leg is 15. RT is just going to be 9 plus 16, which is going to be 25. So I can use Pythagorean theorem to find y. Right, this is a right triangle here. Let me highlight it to make it more plain. Right, this is a right triangle and y is the hypotenuse of it. So to find y, it's going to be 25 squared plus 15 squared equals y squared. 25 squared is 625. 15 squared is 225. So we get that equals y squared. 625 plus 225, we get 850 equals y squared. So now we got to square root both sides. Now go back to the question. You have to give your answer in simplest radical form. It's got to be in simplest radical form. So we got to break this radical down. Now don't look too far for the perfect square. And here's what I mean by that. Remember how we got this 850? Think about that. How did we get this 850? And I'll be back in a second. Well, it all started from here, right? So I know that 25 has to be a factor of 850. So I'm just going to say radical 25 times what? 34. The reason why I use the 25 instead of the 15 is because the 25 is the perfect square. So this is equal to y. So the square root of 25 is 5, so I get 5 radical 34 is equal to y. So that means that RU is equal to 5 radical 34 in simplest radical form. Okay, now the way I did it is I used the leg rule, right? That was my approach for this question. If you want to use yesterday's approach in breaking up the triangles, you can, and I'll just go over that real quick. Here is big triangle. Here is the medium one. And here is the smaller one. Oh, it's not there. Here it is. Now, remember what you have to do, right? You have to orient the triangles so that they are all oriented in the same way. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just take the little one and rotate it that way 90 degrees. And if I do it that way, this is S, this is T, and this is U, which means I have to take the medium one now, and I have to rotate it 90 degrees this way. And this is U, this is T, and this is R. Now for the big one, if I'm orienting it the same way as the little one, remember it's got to get flipped. So I'm going to just flip it real quick. And it's got to get rotated. So this will be S. I'll use a different color. S, U, and R. All right, now recall this was x plus 16 originally, and this was x, and this was 15, right? So ST is x, and UT is 15 for the little triangle. And now for the medium triangle, this was RT was x plus 16, and TU was 15. So then, you know, there's your proportion, right? You would set up your proportion in the same fashion that we initially set it up, right? Initially our proportion looked like this. Okay, and you would get the same answer if you decide to do it this route. But you know, you can use the leg rule that I gave you in the beginning of the video. I'm putting it up there again, and you would get the same answer. Okay, so I hope this video helps with the more in-depth overlapping right triangle questions in which the right triangles are similar. Take care.